Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Foot Traffic. I am so excited because I get to interview Rachel Ngom today. Rachel has been on the podcast before. We've talked all things Pinterest and blogging, and she is just like such an incredible entrepreneur. And I wanted to bring really incredible entrepreneurs on that have been in the same situation we've all been in throughout 2020, and how are they still thriving and what are they doing, and what kind of mindset do you have to get through this? So I thought Rachel would be an excellent person to bring on and just have a conversation. So Rachel, welcome. I'm so excited to have you back on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Beth.
Yeah. So before we jump in, can you just tell people a little bit about what you do, who you are, like who you serve, and then we'll just go from there.
Yeah, so we work with purpose-driven entrepreneurs, help them get more leads and sales with blogging and Pinterest and online courses.
I didn't even tell you this yet, Rachel. So of course we use Rachel strategies, and I finally implemented something I knew we should have been implementing earlier, something you've taught us. And our like monthly engaged views went from like 400,000 to a million. And then in 1 week, and then a week later, this Monday, we just had 1.4.
Wow,
so
that's pretty
now
cool.
I know that's like a vanity number, but at the same time, like it's still pretty impressive. So I'm super excited, and all thanks to you. So I wanted to tell you that.
I love it.
I know. So yeah, Rachel's all things Pinterest, you guys. Definitely make sure to be checking her out. But before we even kind of get into that, what has 2020 taught you? Like, you've been doing this now for a little while. Like, what are your biggest lessons and takeaways?
So 2020 has been like a unique year for everybody. I had the added having a baby right when the pandemic hit. And so Gabrielle was born on March 19th. And that's
like literally when it happened.
And so it was like sleep deprivation, wanting to take time off to be with the baby, plus being like, all right, well, we need to figure out the pandemic crap and how can I leave time? So there have been unique challenges with all of that. What it's taught me is to give myself grace. And focusing on your personal growth and your leadership is so important.
Yeah. So, okay, I completely forgot about that. So let's kind of go back to March. I know you, and you were prepped and planned, and you were ready for this like amazing maternity leave. What actually happened when this like happened the week of the whole United States like shutting down?
So I could have handled it, I think, like so much better. I didn't. I just like I needed to sleep and be with my baby, and I was like, I had literally at least 3 months of podcast content like prepped and ready to go, and so I could have like hustled a lot more and not. I was already not sleeping. She was waking up every 30 minutes.
Yeah,
like it was so hard that like first 3 months of trying to figure out, all right, how do I show up for my people, but also take care of myself and the baby and the kid who's now not in school anymore.
Right. Yes, you have a second.
Yeah, the 7-year-old. So how do I do that and do it well? I think the first like 2 months, I couldn't even like think about creating another new content. So I was like, all right, we're just gonna deal with what it is. And just put it up. And it was like, I think when she was 2 months old and starting to sleep a little more and I was getting a little bit more of a break, I'm like, okay, now I can actually like create content that's geared around what's happening. Before it, literally, I couldn't even fathom like doing it.
And I appreciate you just sharing that with us, because first I can hear the guilt, right? Like I could have hustled more, right? Like she's taking the bare minimum of what most women take for maternity leave, and you're like, I could have, right? So I hear it. We all experience it, especially as somebody who is a mom and they're trying to grow their business, right? You can sense that. But I'm actually really proud of you that you were like, no, I literally need to sleep right now. Like I can't. Because you could have easily been like, okay, I'm going to do this instead, or I'm going to have to do that and put this on the back burner.
I literally like, it was like 2 months before I really started to create content. And for first 5 months, it was like, I'm focused on the baby and the kid. Like I'm not focused on growing this business as of right now. And so giving myself grace has been a big thing of like, you basically took 5 months to be a mom, like I was working, but it was the bare minimum that I needed to do. And so I think for me, the biggest lesson has been like, give yourself grace, because you don't have to be perfect in all areas at all times.
you did such an amazing job of like getting ready for this baby to come. Like you were ready to go, the podcast batch. Like you did a really good job at that. Now, what does the bare minimum look like for you? When you say like I did the bare minimum and then everything else was kind of prepped and ready, what does the bare minimum look like?
The bare minimum looks like the podcast has content going out every single week.
Okay.
So we have that going on, which is also going on to our blog, which is also going on to Pinterest.
Yeah.
And we also have Instagram TV. Like we're repurposing all that content going all
Yeah.
over the place. It also means that
your bare minimum, I feel like, is a lot more than a lot of people, but I want people to hear this.
Okay, yeah. So like we still have weekly content going out on all platforms.
Yeah. And you have a team.
I do.
Okay.
I have a great team.
Yes.
We still have Facebook ads running to an evergreen webinar. I took, I think 2 weeks off of calls for our Activate students where I wasn't like on the call, but I was still in our Facebook group, like supporting them. I had Helen and we had a guest speaker like already prepped for those first 2 weeks. And then I showed up and that was an hour a week of my time.
Right. When people hear that you only took really 2 weeks off of work and that you came back, but it's something you enjoy. It was bare minimum.
I love them.
And you, like, yes.
For me, it's the bare minimum. I'm like, totally. I was still working and doing stuff, but it definitely wasn't more than 5 to 10 hours a week. It was like showing up, doing what I love, but also grace.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, maternity looks different for everybody, right? Like, I don't want anybody thinking like, how dare she not take 12 weeks off or whatever that is, right? We all are very different. We enjoy doing things differently. Some of us like our business more than others and they need a break. And some of us don't need a break, right? So I love that your story looks different than mine and then somebody else's and all of that as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So I was just going to ask you something, bare minimum, your team, how big is your team?
We have someone doing our Facebook ads. We have a social media manager. We have a head coach for Activate, our group coaching program. Mm-hmm. We have a sales director. We didn't back then.
Okay.
We have a salesperson on our team that he's working with. We have Ariana, who is like our project manager. We have Michelle, who is our customer service. And Manuela does our Pinterest management side of our business.
Okay. But I want people to see how well-rounded your business is.
Yeah.
For you to take off. It's not that you didn't make money during that time. You were still making money and running a program as well while going through a pandemic.
Exactly. It's not like we decided to take maternity leave and we weren't
right.
Like we still made a lot through passive income revenue streams and the group program.
So let's talk a little bit about funnels, because I feel like that has been something you like immediately said, I'm going to do it. Yeah. It started working fast for you. And it's something you've been consistently doing now for years. And it's the thing that allows you to step away and still make money every day. Yeah. So just explain a little bit about like what that has looked like for you and like where you started and where you are now when it comes to automated sales funnels.
Oh, I love them. They're so fun. And it's just incredible to see what you can do when you're not actively working and like trading time for money. Like that's a big thing for me is I don't want to trade time for money. I have a family. We love to travel. We're moving to Senegal. We lived in France. I
can't keep up with Rachel. I'm like, where do you live now? What country are you in?
I'm currently in a wine cellar at my parents' house in Chicago.
I really hope people are not just listening and they somehow watch a video of this, because she's always in the best wine cellar in her parents' house. I need this wine cellar. But anyway, all right, let's keep going. So sales funnels, yes, it's giving you that freedom, that flexibility to move, to travel, to be in different states and countries and all of that. Is it something you feel like at some point you won't have or you won't need in your business?
I feel like I'll always have them. I don't know why I wouldn't when you see how powerful it is. Like with an automated webinar.
Oh, you're back. Sorry. Okay. It's okay. We'll edit it. It's okay.
Cool. So with an automated webinar, being able to, I remember the first time this happened, we were at Disney World and I was at Disney with the family the whole day. And I like checked my phone. I'm like, holy crap, we made over $1,000 automated from a course that's selling. I'm like, how is this even possible? Mm-hmm. And having that course go on to do over $500,000 automated. I'm like, this is insanity. So I think I'll always have one. I think it's so smart to have a sales funnel. Otherwise, it's just like you're working harder and harder and harder, trading time for money, you know? So I'm all about systems, automation, having a life that my business is a part of my life, but it doesn't run my life. Like I want to have that freedom to be mom first and to do the things that I want to do and have a great business.
Yeah. I have a moment like that too, where I was in Spain and some craziness was going down with their government and we had to get out of there and I had to rebuy flights home. And it was $2,500. And I was just like, ugh, like we have flights going home and to have to spend another $2,500 just was such a bummer. And like 2 days prior, we literally sold a $24.97 product that came through automated. And I remember thinking to myself, you know, it's like something like not everybody would have been like, let's buy a second round of plane tickets to get home. But the fact that we have these things in place to go like, wow, I was in Spain bringing in $2,500 automated and then had that money, the exact amount, which is crazy, that I was able to then spend to get home. And it's just one of those things where I feel like it gives you more security.
Totally. Yeah. Just knowing that it's there and it's running and you have sales that are coming in, even if you're working or not, it's powerful.
Yeah. Now, looking back this past year, what do you feel like has been your biggest success, your biggest milestone? Doesn't have to be financial. Like, just what is something that you will not forget about 2020?
Having a baby. Having Gabrielle. Yeah, it was crazy. Like literally having her during the pandemic, and my husband was the only person that was allowed in the hospital with us at the time.
Oh yeah,
like,
I was just gonna ask.
That was like the first time they like started shutting things down and everything, and my parents were so bummed because they wanted to come. And I mean that has to be the highlight. Like other stuff happened, but
So, and here's the thing too, when that happened, like just you were days after it shutting down. So you were probably one of the first people that you knew of. Like my point is maybe somebody who had a baby a month or two later could say like, hey, Rachel, how was it? What do I need to be aware of? But you probably went into the hospital not hearing of anybody going through this with nobody else and being in COVID and all of that. I mean, those are skills and strategies that you need to equip yourself with, knowing like, I don't know what's about to happen. Like I am going in as the first and as the leader. What are some things that you have to like think about or say to yourself mindset wise when you're going into a strategy or something brand new for the first time? Because you've done that time after time after time.
Just knowing like I'm a huge one of the things I always say is take messy action, and done is better than perfect. So those are like the two things I say over and over again. And when I show up to do something, let's say it's a webinar, and it doesn't go as planned, I know that's not the last time I'm going to be doing that webinar. And I know I'm going to do it again and it's going to get better. And I'm going to do it again and it's going to get better. And so whenever I show up for something, it's just like, let's go quick and get it done. And I can always make it better after the fact. Like it does not have to be perfect the first time you do something. And I think that's where a lot of people stay stuck, is they wait for it to be perfect and then it takes them forever to put anything out there. So just do the thing.
Yeah. Rachel and I are both very quick action takers. So it's hard for us sometimes to see people that just won't move. They're just literally frozen. And I think now more than ever, people have paralyzed themselves, you know, during this year. But I think they're starting to realize that there is no like waiting around for this to be over. It is time to move, and it's time to move now.
Yeah. I think another big thing for us is how important diversification is. And so like I already learned that lesson when I was in network marketing and the company restructured and my income was cut in half. It's like we need to diversify and do it like now. And so one of the things that my husband just got back from Senegal, and we're looking at real estate properties and building an apartment complex and basically using the money I'm making from this business and funneling it into other investments, specifically in Africa, where we can employ more people and have different revenue streams that are coming in.
Yeah, that's interesting. So that's actually how we met, is you came to me saying, I was in this business and they've just restructured and now I'm in this situation. And your business is a lot more secure now than it was before, but it looks like you're still continuing to diversify as you continue to grow.
Totally. I think it's just smart. Like you can't have all your eggs in one basket, and tomorrow's never promised. I think we learned that lesson this year.
I think we did too. And I think we realized too that even some of the businesses we thought were recession proof,
Yeah.
there's this new phrase of like, are you pandemic proof? And a lot of us were not.
Yep.
So that's interesting too. And it just shows you like there's always room for improvement. There's always room for strategy. And like you said, being more diverse and really paying attention to that.
Yep, totally.
Yeah. As we head into 2021, like what does this fresh start mean for you? Where are you heading? What will you do differently? What does that look like?
Oh, scaling our offers. So like we
Okay.
finally have the people in place and like the
Mhm.
systems in place to scale, which is really exciting because before it was mostly dependent on me selling
Yeah.
like our higher ticket things, which I got good at, but I don't
Yeah.
want to be selling anymore with a baby. So
And
yeah, go
keep
ahead.
going.
So like hiring a sales director and getting a sales team in place, that is
Yeah.
like exciting. Doing weekly webinars until we're going to make that evergreen for a high ticket offer is exciting. Moving to Africa is pretty awesome too. And
Right.
figuring out like what our first big investment will be, it'll probably be buying land and developing our own rental property there.
Amazing.
Um, and continuing just to grow in my leadership and also
Yeah.
doing a higher level mastermind for my students that are like they have a business and they want to scale to $250,000.
Yeah, they're
So
ready.
working with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about that. You were really good at sales calls, like really good. But it takes your time. It's one-on-one. It's if you want to have 50 clients, you had to do 50, probably way more than 50 calls because not everybody says yes, right? You were good, but you weren't 100% conversion, right? So how do you say to yourself, like, I got to hire somebody, even though you might hire somebody who's not even as good as you? Like, how did that feel?
A little scary. And that was like during the pandemic and having the baby, it was I chose not to do sales calls. And so I know like we took an income hit for that, but we also didn't have the right people in place.
Yeah.
And so it was like I have to be patient until I find this right person. Now we have someone that's great and he's doing a great job closing. So now we're just working on getting more leads for him to close.
Yeah.
So at first, when you don't have the right person, it's not the best feeling, but when you have someone that you can trust and they know your business and they know your offers and they're doing
Yeah.
a good job, it feels really exciting when, was that yesterday? Yeah, yesterday we had a $14,000 day from someone he sold that paid in full and me being able
Amazing.
to be with the family. Like we traveled yesterday and I wasn't
Yeah.
working, so it gives you that sense of like freedom of I don't have to be the one selling now.
It's hard to be patient when you just want that role filled and you want it
Yes.
off your plate, but it's so worth it to do it right
Yeah.
and to have the right person than to have to fire that person 3 months in when you realize they're just not up to speed. And then you start over, start from scratch trying to find the next person to come in.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay, so where will you be focusing? You said scaling the business, like scaling the offer. So you feel like besides the one offer, you feel like you have kind of found your best sellers, your product suite, basically.
Yeah. So Pin with Purpose, teaching Pinterest marketing is our
Mm-hmm.
DIY course. And then Activate is I call it like a business in a box of helping entrepreneurs start, grow, and scale their online business. So those
Mm-hmm.
are like the two main things that we're focused on through webinars and automations and getting those programs filled.
Got it. What do you feel like like I should say this. Say the best piece of advice. I'm sure you were given a lot of advice or maybe peers or mentors or coaches. What was a piece of advice that you were given in this last year that you want to like spread or share that message with somebody else listening that maybe needs to hear it right now?
I already said it, but give yourself grace.
Okay.
Because I remember talking to somebody and she was like, you had a baby and you were intentional about taking 5 months to like be a mom.
Yeah.
You need to actually give yourself grace in this moment.
Right.
And
And when will you ever regret spending the first 5 months with your daughter?
never. Like she's growing up so fast. And I'm so grateful that I had that time and I didn't have to go to a job and put her in daycare. Like I am so grateful for that. And then I continue to be home. I think a big thing, like a lot of us are dealing with the challenges like being virtual school and our kids being homeschooled now. I was just doing a training call for my Activate students and my son comes in here and I'm like, hey buddy, like
Mom's working.
mom's got something to do right now. I'll play with you after. But give yourself grace because we're dealing with a lot of challenges right now, perceived challenges. They could be an opportunity if you look at it the right way. So just give yourself grace and know that you're going to be better through going through everything this year.
I want to put you on the spot. Is there anything that you thought was a problem that turned into an opportunity this year? I give yourself a minute because I know I'm going deep here.
I know.
And if you can't think of anything, that's fine. I was just curious.
Yes. Okay. Having our son do virtual school. So we made that decision. All of his friends were like going back to school, and we made the decision to do virtual school, which,
oh, wow.
Yes. And because of that decision, that's an opportunity for our whole family to get up and go to Senegal. We're going to leave probably mid-December and spend 2 months in Senegal and then come back and then pack up our stuff and then move. But when we move, once the like travel is okay and we can go places, like we can go in Portugal for a month. We can come back to the States and visit family. Like what I thought never would happen, virtual school could be like the thing that gives our family, because I have the location freedom with my business. Yeah. But now the whole family can have it, because the thing that was tying us down was him being in school. So now like we all have that freedom. It was a pain in the butt when it first started. And honestly, it still kind of is, because he's definitely a boundary pusher.
He's so cute though. He's so cute. Yes.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, you're gonna change the world, but right now you drive mommy crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be like an opportunity that seemed like it at the time, but now I'm like grateful for it.
Totally. Well, and here's the thing, it goes to show you too, like I was somebody who was kind of like in the back of my mind, always thinking like, I wonder if we could homeschool. And my experience in March was like, nope, we can't. We are not those people. So that is just not going to work out. But it's like, it's different for all of us. And we have to just, like you said, give ourselves grace, assess how we are and assess what we like and we don't, and then make our 2021 look the way that we want it. Like we have more control than we think we do, I think sometimes.
Definitely.
Yeah. Rachel, this has been so good. Where can people find you, check you out online or anything like that?
Yeah, so our podcast is the She's Making an Impact podcast. And then if you want to learn more about Pinterest marketing and how you can get more leads through Pinterest, just go to freepinterestclass.com. It's a free Pinterest workshop.
Amazing. Rachel, thank you so much for being here. You guys go check her out. Go stalk her on social media. Always has great stuff to share. Thanks again, Rachel.
Thanks for having me.